not show up on video unless you go in front of the camera. So you're off camera right where you are, and not unless you have to go up there will you actually show up on the video.
You said this is live, right?
It's here. This
will be live. Yeah.
This part is not going to be live, but the webinar will be live.
You just said it starts at 7.
Right, which starts at 7. So that is the time that we have there's no leaving.
Okay, gotcha.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Toastmasters, to this session on contest rules and the role of the contest chair and all the other rules in a contest. We're going to start off with an invocation that will be done by the President of Sagicor. And thank you so very much, Sagicor, for being kind enough to host us. Welcome, Rochelle Lewis.
Thank you, Shanari. Push past your obstacles to achieve your goals. Anything you want to achieve, it doesn't matter what stands in your way, push past it. Why? You have the goal for a reason, right? If you decide that you want to lose 10 pounds, there's a reason for it. If you decide that you want to get your master's soon, there's a reason for it. And when you set your goal, you didn't say, I'll stop after the first obstacle, the second obstacle, the third. You said, I'm going to get my master's, period. I'm going to lose 10 pounds, period. So there weren't any conditions when we created these goals. So in pursuing them, there shouldn't be any conditions either. So push past your obstacles to achieve your goals.
Our first presenter is a former national champion for the International Speech Contest for Jamaica. She's someone who, I'll get to it. I had her as, she was supposed to be the contest chair, and I terrorized her, and she said she's got this, and she really did have this, and that's why I'm so confident to have her come and present to you on what it takes to be a contest chair. Help me to welcome Rachel Callahan.
So, it is essentially contest season. We have our humorous and our evaluation and other contests coming up this side of the year and going on into the new Toastmasters year. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So essentially it's contest season. And contests are a very important part of the Toastmasters educational program because it pushes all those who participate to push themselves in all facets of the roles that they choose to take. Now, a lot of people tend to try to challenge themselves by becoming contestants, but I'm here to tell all of you that there are also other opportunities to challenge yourself, whether or not you are a contestant. And one of those ways is being the contest chair. Now, I know a lot of people tend to back away from this because, they feel that they don't have experience or it's a difficult task. But as with everything else in Toastmasters, by taking on the challenge and preparing yourself for it, it is just another obstacle for you to overcome towards becoming the wholesome and fulsome Toastmaster that you can be. All right? So I'm here to walk you through a couple steps and a couple things that you need to know so that when somebody comes to you and says, I'd like you to be my contest chair, instead of backing away from the task, you will do what I did to Shanari and say, you got this, right? Enthusiasm, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are ready to learn?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. So in this presentation, what we're trying to do is three main things. I want you to understand the role of the contest chair, because there are many different facets to this one role. I want you to get familiar with some of the actions that you take as you prepare yourself for the contest chair position, as well as talk a little bit about the resources that exist to help you. Where's my timer? Okay. Right? So first of all, a contest chair, ladies and gentlemen, is more than an MC at an event. The contest chair is an organizer, a facilitator, and also an MC. Because becoming the contest chair takes more than just turning up. It takes preparation through all the steps before you step in front of that lectern, right? You can't just roll over and decide, I'm going to be the contest chair. I can speak very well, so let me step in front of the lectern and take on this challenge. No. The moment you get that phone call or that email or that request to become the contest chair is the moment you begin your preparation. And preparation prior to the actual day of the contest is key. So once that phone call comes in, the first thing you're going to do is go for your Bible. That is, thank you very much. Essie has a physical copy here, and I have a picture of one up there. It is your speech contest rule book. You cannot, should not, will not step in front of that lectern without having excellent knowledge of what is sitting in this book. Because as the contest chair, your voice is a very large determinant of what happens in that contest and how smoothly things flow. Here, in this simple little manual that you see here, every single question that you will think to ask is answered right here. It is spelled out, it is in as many details as is possible. It walks through everything step by step, not only for you as the contest chair, but also for the other roles that you oversee. So that of the contestant and the chief judge and all the other functionaries that will play a part in that play that you guide along. Right? So this is the first thing that we go for. We read this. Our next step is to get the team that works. And that is through the selection of your chief judge. Your chief judge is secondary to you, but is your right-hand man or woman, simply because it is the responsibility of the chief judge to ensure that all the invisible parts of the contest are running smoothly. Your chief judge is in charge of briefing all of your functionaries, ensuring that all necessary paperwork for the back end with your functionaries is prepared, everything. So ensuring that your chief judge is ready and willing and prepared when you're making that selection is the second most important decision that you make after downloading and accessing this document. Now it's time for you to talk. Communication. Your contest chair role does not begin when you step in front of the lectern, as previously mentioned. It is your responsibility as the organizer aspect of the role to ensure that you are communicating with your contestants. Because it is your job, once they are identified to you, to inform them of what their expectations are, to find out, to collect any relevant information that is there, to collect their information about themselves through the documentation of the speaker's certification of eligibility and originality and their speech contest profile. Not only are you talking to your contestants, but you're also going to be talking to the VP education of the club, that it is, if it's at a club level that you are starting off this process. If you're higher than that, you're going to speak to the organizer of the contest. Because every club and every organizer has a different approach According to Toastmasters, you are supposed to prepare the agenda. But there are some clubs and some organizers who take the step to prepare it for you, which is fine, right? But you have to be aware of and look at what that draft is, because it impacts you so greatly that you need to have input prior to that agenda being released. You need to confirm what the contest flow is going to be like. A lot of us, when we've been to contests, you notice that it's more than one contest that occurs in one space of time. Have you noticed that? You can talk to me. Nobody here has been to a contest?
Yes.
Okay. More than one contest occurs during one meeting period. And so you have to speak to your organizers and understand whether they want the contest to flow into each other, or for there to be a break in between each contest. When you're standing at the lectern is not the time for you to try and figure that out. So you need to know what's happening there. And then, in the name of smoothness of your flow, you need to find out or choose who it is that you want to be presenting your awards ahead of time, right? You don't want to randomly call on somebody who's unprepared, as well as you don't want to, there is the opportunity to cause offense. If you ask someone who is not the highest member, highest designation in the room, or what would be the term, Master Shirley?
Ranking.
The highest ranking in the room to do the presentations. But if you know ahead of time, then you can prepare them accordingly, that these are the people that we have selected. Thank you for being here all the same. And then, something that has kept me on track throughout all the contests that I have had the pleasure of running through is a contest script. Now, a script makes it easier because there are a lot of details that you have to remember as the contest chair. Things must occur in order. This is not the time to impromptu speak, right? And so having a script that literally states one step after the other about what it is that you're supposed to do and what it is that you can expect will make your job that much more flawless in front of your audience. So that's what you do before you step into that room on that day. What you do before the contest begins, but on the day, is you have to bring everybody up to speed. Now is the time to cross the T's and dot the I's before the physical contest starts. And that happens through a contestant briefing. This is the opportunity for you to share once again with your contestants what the expectations of them are via rules and regulations from the manual. This is the time where you choose their speaking position, because I'm sure, well, maybe you're not aware of, because there are several speakers in one contest. In order to keep things randomized, on the actual day, the contestants are required to pick when it is that they will perform. It's also the time for you to find out what their needs are. If they have not expressed them before, contestants under pressure tend to forget. And so it is your role and your responsibility as the contest chair to ensure that everybody is adequately taken care of and everybody is on the same page so that everybody can compete at the exact same level. While you're doing your contestant briefing, your right-hand man or woman is conducting your functionary briefings. That, because you trust your chief judge, is not your purview or your responsibility. You have delegated, or it's automatically delegated to your chief judge, so you trust them to make sure that those things are taken care of. It's not your responsibility to go in there and undergo any kind of briefing of your functionaries. And then, of course, you do your final checks. Is your agenda exactly as you asked for? Are all your contestants that previously signed up going to be present? And is your script perfect, or as perfect as it can be for the occasion? So you're all ready, right? You've done the most important part of the job, and now it's time for you to show off what it is that you've prepared to do. You are not the presiding officer of the meeting, and so you will be introduced. And the moment you step on that stage, the floor is now yours. You run that entire program from that point forward. And so what you do is you acknowledge the presiding officer that would have introduced you and roll quickly into your contest. You are going to announce to the audience that the contestants have been briefed. Now is not the time to run through the contest rules. Everybody should have, all the relevant people should have been made aware of the rules. And if the audience members would like to have access to the rules, they can Google and find them on the Toastmasters website. Now is not the time to go through. You're going to announce the speaking order that was previously selected, and then you are going to begin with your first speaker. You start off by introducing or calling your speaker's name. Normally, the speaker is off stage or somewhere that is not visible to the audience. Wait for them to approach you at the lectern. If you are made aware that there is no requirement for them to approach you at the lectern, shaking hands is not a requirement. Once you acknowledge them, if they are not coming on the stage, you say their topic or their title, you say the title again, their name again, and you graciously leave the stage. If the contestant has entered, or you should be leaving the stage as the contestant is entering the stage. If the contestant is in close proximity to you, you exit behind the contestant. Once the contestant has completed their presentation, it is your job to keep the crowd quiet for 1 minute while ballots are marked. Now, it might be tempting in a humorous contest to laugh along with the audience because, presentations get good. But it is your job to shush and make anyone who is making unnecessary noise quiet so that the judges can mark their ballots. And once they have completed, all the presentations are complete, you give an adequate amount of time so that all of the ballots can be signed off and collected as inconspicuously as is possible. But that is your chief judge's responsibility. So everybody has finished presenting, right? We're all excited. We've heard fantastic presentations, but your job is not quite yet finished. You still have to wrap up graciously, right? Right, guys?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, okay.
thank you very much. I just wanted to work with me. And now, while your judges are off stage, while your counters are doing, and your chief judge, they're doing their job in the back, this is the time where you conduct your interviews. You introduce your contestants to your audience, and the most important thing to note here is that you try and keep it short and sweet. This is not the time to find out their life story. The best approach is to ask 2 generic questions of all contestants, and then you may include a 3rd unique question that may have been pulled from their speaker's profile. It is once that has been completed and you've handed over your participation certificates, you address any protests if there are any, you note any disqualifications, and it's time for the good stuff. You announce your winners in reverse order, and you call up whoever is necessary to do all of the nice handing over and the picture taking. There are 2 asterisks beside the handover of the certificates, because what you should know is, as the contest chair, it is your responsibility to sign all certificates before they go out. A lot of people tend to leave them blank and sign them afterwards, but the more efficient way to approach is to walk with a pen and sign everything off before you present them. You wrap up, say all of the niceties that you need to say, and your time has come to a close. Gracefully hand the meeting back over to the presiding officer and take your seat. Your job would have been very well done. So before we go, there are just a couple things that you need to note. And they're all available in your manual. We don't need to know any personal details of the contestants. Do not note anything that will interfere with that will create any kind of bias. We don't need to know what club they are before they present, what designations they have, nothing. We don't need to know, because we're trying to prevent bias. Contest officials are to remain anonymous. You can acknowledge them generally at the end of the presentation. However, you do not ask them to stand in any way, shape, or form. And remember, less is more. The program should be designed to flow smoothly so that you don't have to add any ad-lib, but I like to come prepared, and I would suggest that you do the same, because you never know what may happen. For contestants, choose your topics wisely. Don't insult anybody. They say things to avoid talking about in public are politics, sex, and religion, and bathroom habits. Stick to that. Avoid talking about those topics. And as mentioned before, handshakes are nice, but they're not necessary. And finally, when preparing for your contest chair role, when in doubt, reach out. There are many people who have done the role before. There are a lot of people who can provide you with guidance, and there is Toastmasters International. So you don't have to enter that role feeling disadvantaged. All right, so go out and control your contest chair role and do a great job.
Let's hear it again for Rachel. We'll now hear from Essie Gardner, Distinguished Toastmaster. She'll be going through the rules of all the other functionaries in the contest. And she has a lot of experience in this and has been chief judge and mentored many people, including me, through different roles in a contest. Help me to welcome Essie Gardner, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Friends, we heard from Rachel speaking about the the contest chair, the contest chair is one of the participants in a contest. Who are the other contestants? Who are the other participants in the contest? We have the contestants, clearly, timers.
Yeah, where's that?
Do we have a?
Yeah, where's the thing?
It's not working.
It's not responding.
Okay. Okay. Timers and counters, the sergeant at arms, chief judge, tie-breaking judge, and judges. Quite a number of roles. And as Rachel says, the contest allows not just contestants to hone their skills, but a number of other roles that you can sink your teeth into and do well at them. Rachel spoke about the contest chair, but in speaking about the contest chair's role, she mentioned a number of things that the contestant has to do. And when we speak from the other perspective, the contestant, to be eligible for participating, must be in good standing, of a club in good standing. It's important to know that this is something that must be carried throughout. It means that you cannot not have paid your dues today, but to participate in your club contest, pay next week and think that it's okay. It is not. At the club contest level, you must be in good standing and you must maintain good standing throughout. Contestants cannot be charged an entry fee for entering a contest. Important to note. For a conference, a club contest, a national contest, contestants cannot be charged a fee. It is a responsibility of contestants to ensure that the forms are delivered to, whether it's the Vice President Education or the contest chair of a club contest, who will then move it along as persons move on. The forms Rachel mentioned were the eligibility and originality form, profile, those are the two? For contestants. Rachel said it, it's worth repeating. You cannot be competing in a contest and not read the rule book. Too often, we have contestants who have done a good speech in club, and some of our mentors may have said, yeah man, contest speech, go for it. And you enter the contest without reading the rules and end up disqualifying yourself for whatever reason. Read the rule book. The contestant is responsible for preparing his or her own speech. And the rule book says that it must be substantially original. That is, more than 25% of the speech cannot be from quotes or paraphrasing other people's work. You have to have at least 75%, which is your own original work. And you sign a form to say that this is what you have done. The contestant must attend the contestant briefing. You heard Rachel speak strongly on that. And it is the responsibility of the contestant to advise the contest chair and the contest sergeant at arms if you have any props. Do not, as a contestant, go and say, oh, I need this on the stage when I'm ready. That's not the contest chair's responsibility, nor the sergeant at arms' responsibility to place it on the stage. You can get someone to assist you, and in that 1 minute of silence, which the contest chair would have allowed, that's when you and your team place your props on the stage, and immediately you finish and there's another moment of silence, you remove them. It's not the sergeant at arms' responsibility, nor anybody else, none of the other functionaries. But you tell them because they need to be able to ensure that things run smoothly. It is the contestant's responsibility to manage his or her own time. You must know where the timers are, what the timing signals, thank you, because, especially in a humorous speech contest, you don't want people to laugh over time, and then you end up running over time. Your responsibility as a contestant to manage your time, to watch the timing signals, and to complete your speech at the appropriate time. So let's look at the contest, the judge, the chief judge. The chief judge appoints and counsels all other judges, the voting judges and the tie-breaking judge. The contest chair training indicated that the chief judge will go out and search for people and appoint eligible people. And the rule book guides you on who is eligible to be a judge. At the club level, it gives you a certain level of experience. At the area, district, and national level, a different kind of experience, and it moves on. So as a chief judge, you have to be very cognizant of what's in the rule book and select your judges accordingly. The tie-breaking judge is very special because only the chief judge actually knows who the tie-breaking judge is. The other judges may know who they are, and for the most part they're going to be anonymous. But the tie-breaking judge speaks only to the chief judge. Appoints and counsels, counters, and timers. For contests, you aim for 2 timers and 3 counters. That's what is recommended. And the chief judge is also the 2 counters, I'll complete 2 counters and, 3 counters and 2 timers, minimum. And you conduct the briefing for judges, counters, timers, as well as distributes the forms. So the chief judge is going to make sure that you have all the ballots that the judges are going to use, the timing cards for the timers, the counters tally, all of those are going to be packaged by the chief judge and handed to the respective persons in an appropriate time. During the contest, the chief judge collects timing sheets from the timers. So a judge can't then go and collect a timing card from a timer. No, that's not done. The chief judge will collect the timing cards and will deal with them thereafter. The tie-breaking judge hands the tie-breaking ballot personally to the chief judge. Personally to the chief judge. So nobody else knows what the tie-breaking judge has done. The chief judge also resolves any protests in collaboration with the contest chair for any protest that may be lodged. And you oversee the counting process. Remember I said that the chief judge is also the chief counter. You provide the winners list, and there's a particular form. The chief judge will fill in the winners and hand that form to the contest chair, who will then do the announcements. The contest sergeant at arms is very special, and in some contests, 2 sergeant at arms are required. In the evaluation contest, there is a sergeant at arms who's going to be required to be with the evaluators once they step out of the room, and will liaise with the other sergeant at arms to make sure that the evaluators come in at the appropriate time. So you manage the movement of the audience, you liaise with speakers before the contest, and while you're liaising with the speakers, you want to know if anybody has a prop, you want to know if anybody has any special requirements, which you can guide them on, but you are not necessarily responsible for securing them. You want to control the flow of table topics contest speakers, and you supervise, or one of your assistants supervise the evaluation contest speakers. Timers and counters, remember I said that timers manage your timing equipment and record the time. You have a particular form which you will fill in. Do we have the form, Janari? No, it's all right. The timers manage the time, they fill in the forms, they sign it, and they give it to the chief judge. The timing record, give it to the chief judge only. Counters collect the ballots from judges and tally the points. You will recall that Rachel said that they do it as inconspicuously as possible, because the aim is for the judges to remain incognito as much as is possible. So the counters should know who the judges are, where they're seated, so that they can easily access them, get the forms, and head out to do the counting. Timers. 2 timers are appointed by the chief judge, and they record the official time of each speech on the appropriate form. Note, they just put down the times. They are not going to determine whether or not people are disqualified or not. They simply put down the time for each speaker. And they record the official time of each speech on the form. Counters, 3 counters are appointed by the chief judge. Why 3 counters? And that's a minimum. We are growing, and the last contest we had, I believe we needed a minimum of 7 judges. When you have at least 7 judges, and people are going to sit in different places, you want to be able to easily get to the judge, so it doesn't make sense at one counter try to collect 7 or 6 or 5 ballots. So you assign a counter to 2 judges to easily collect and step out. Ballots are tallied under the guidance of the chief judge. Now for the judges. Judges are required to listen keenly to each speaker. The aim is to pick the winner on that day. It doesn't matter if you know that this is a star speaker. If on that day the star performance did not come out, that person cannot be the winner. So you have to listen keenly. Your job is to identify first, second, and third place contestants. And on the judging form, it will tell you that you cannot have a tie. So you can't have 2 persons with 10 points or 12 or whatever the points may be. As a judge, you must pick number 1, number 2, and number 3. The tie-breaking judge has to rank everybody. If there are 10 contestants, the tie-breaking judge will rank from 1. How many contestants did I say? If there are 10, then you must rank from 1 through 10. Because if your ballot is required, it's not just who's the top 3, but if 2 persons end up with 40 points, and you want to know who is number 2 and who is number 3, when you look at the tiebreakers, the ballot, they will say Tom Strokes, I place him as 2, and Mary Jane as 3. So even though Mary Jane and Tom Strokes ended with 40 points, the tie-breaking judge will take Tom Strokes to the number 2 position. And the tie-breaking judge hands the ballot to the chief judge only. This only comes out, that ballot only comes out if and when required. The responsibility of the judge, to pick a winner, nothing else. Not to make any comments, not to say who should speak this or that. Pick a winner. That's the responsibility of the judging panel on that day. Judges are to be accurate. Why do you need to be accurate? Because you have to remember Toastmasters' core values: integrity. What is the other?
Respect.
Integrity, respect, excellence. Service and excellence. They've changed it around, so you have to use integrity first. You have to be accurate. Listen to the people. Doesn't matter what you know about them. If Tom Strokes is the better speaker today, then Tom Strokes is the winner today. Tomorrow, Tom Strokes may not be as good a speaker, but on this day, he's who wins. Fair. You have to be fair. You have to be objective. You have to be trustworthy, knowledgeable about the rules and requirements, and you have to be good listeners. There is a code of ethics which all judges sign to. In fact, on the form, it tells you the code of ethics, and it says you need to sign to agree to this. And the code of ethics is that you have to avoid bias in selecting winners. Remember, we talk about being objective and being fair. Avoid bias. And this is part of the reason why the contest chair cannot say such and such a contestant is a distinguished Toastmaster, been a Toastmaster for millions of years, so today they're going to do their best. No. You cannot say any of those things that are going to cause the judges to think other than in a fair and objective manner. So do not time the speakers, because that's not your role. You're listening to select the winner. The timers are there to time. Do not consider whether somebody has gone overtime or not, irrelevant to the judge. Just mark the paper according to the speech value, delivery, and all of the elements that are on the judge's ballot. Time for the judge is irrelevant. You have to know and support the contest rules. This little book, handy for all, for everybody. Contestants, judges, contest chairs, timers, everybody. There's a little part in this book, in this manual, for everybody, and believe me, it's quite detailed. So you have to know the rules, you have to be able to support the rules. The judges do not reveal or discuss the scores. This is one of the contests where feedback is not really given. You hear the speeches, you select a winner, you destroy the ballots afterwards, and you go. The chief judge destroys all ballots, timing and counters record after the decision has been made. And remember, once the decision has been announced, it is final. It is final. Once the decision has been made, it is final. If a speaker has a protest to lodge, it must be done before the announcements are made. Points to remember: contest officials are to remain anonymous as far as is possible. The chief judge does not provide any public feedback on the contest at all. And a timer is needed in the room where evaluation contests are preparing their material. Why is this? Right. For the evaluation contest, the evaluators are allotted 5 minutes preparation time. You don't start the timing when they leave the room. You start when they are seated in their preparation space, and you give them the 5 minutes. At the end of 5 minutes, you collect their papers, and number one goes in and delivers his or her evaluation. So a timer is needed in that room to make sure that everybody is on even keel and they get 5 minutes and 5 minutes only. I have some scenarios for you, and I'd like your comments. If a person is a member in 2 clubs, which contest can they participate in?
Both?
Both club
Both.
They can participate in both club contests. What happens if they win both club contests?
You have to represent one club.
No. You can participate in 2 club contests as long as you're paid up in both, and both clubs are also in good standing, but you can only participate in one area contest. You cannot go further than the club. So if you happen to win both club contests, you have to select which one you're going to represent at the area. Yes?
Does the other club get to say, okay, if our second place we are represented?
Yes. The club, in fact, does not have to have a contest. Clubs do not have to have a contest. However, if a club decides to have a contest, it must be guided by this little book. So yes, the club can decide that the second place winner will move on to the area contest. What about if there's a contestant, there's a person who's a contestant at one level and wishes to judge at another level? Is that allowed?
If you're not a contestant at the other level, you can be the judge at that level.
If you are,
If you're not a contestant at the level you want to be a judge, I think it's fine. But you can't be a contestant and a judge in the same contest.
the rule book says that if you are a contestant at one level, you should not be a judge at any level. That's what the rule says.
So meaning you can't be a contestant. So I participated in a club contest, I didn't win, but I'm a judge in area for the next, no?
You have to find it for you.
No.
My understanding is that if you are a contestant at any level of the contest, it may be that it's beyond the area. Let me just double check. It may be that it's beyond the area now, because a club can choose anybody to represent them. It says sequence. If a it's at the area, beyond the area. So a club someone doing in a club contest and not winning can move on. But if you move on from club, you cannot participate again as a judge in any level. What happens if the contestant could not see the timing signals?
Protest.
And protest? Protest to say what?
After the fact that
They couldn't
you
see.
were unable to see that it was pointed out, but maybe you weren't able to see because somebody sat in front of us.
Okay. There's a protest, a legitimate protest. I don't know that it would hold, because the contest chair and the contest sergeant at arms would have ensured that there is clear vision of the timing signals, and should not allow anyone to block the.
So what if it gets blocked anyway?
Hold on.
Oh.
If it gets blocked anyway, remember I said that the contestant is responsible for his or her own timing. So he or she would have prepared a 5 to 7 minute speech. And if there's a problem with the timing signal, actually, the rule book says that if there's a problem with the timing signal, 30 seconds extra is allowed, but it can't go beyond 30 seconds. So as a contestant, you have a responsibility to make sure that your time is intact.
Question, since you're on timing, why do you need 2 timers? What if you have conflicting times?
You have two timers, because one is timing the whole segment, especially for tabletop, especially for table topics. Both of you have to, actually both of you are timing each thing, and you have to synchronize.
Who's
yes.
actually
Yes.
who's actually using the timing instrument? One of them.
One is using the clock, and one is doing the time.
They're both not having.
Also, they're working together.
They're working
Absolutely.
together. They're sitting together and working together.
okay.
Oh.
And there's only one form that is
So
that
5
is.
minutes, I will say to you, it's 5 minutes touch the
Mhm.
Okay.
That's right. That's how it works. And just to add that the part of the briefing is to have the contestant know where the timer will be sitting. So you know that from the start.
Yes,
so you can
the contest chair would have pointed out that the timers will be there, and that's what the timing signals are going to be. In fact, at other levels of contest, there is time allotted for contestants to use the speaking area and to see where the timing cards are so that they are comfortable.
A question, should the timing area be isolated?
The timing isolated, what do you mean by isolated?
Meaning that you have a special area.
Mm-hmm.
This is just like how this is set up.
Yes.
That's where the time is.
And this is why I'm saying that the contest chair in pointing out would have, and the sergeant at arms would have made sure that nobody can block the area.
Okay.
But just in case something happens and
Right.
something falls in front,
Okay.
the contestant still has an obligation to time him or herself to make sure that they don't go over time. What happens if laughter takes up the time during the humor speech contest?
What you just said applies.
It applies. Can club or district officers, can they be contestants? Club or district officers?
Clubs can be, can't
Club officers can be contestants. District officers, no.
And remember, district starts at area.
Here are some resources. Of course, the first one there is the rule book. And there are actually some videos online which you can go to at toastmasters.org speech contest rules. You will have some videos that you can look at to learn. But also, at the back of this manual, we have a whole page of resources, that you can refer to learn the various roles and functions for judges.
And there are the frequently asked questions.
Yes, that's one of the things that you'll find on that site as well. Folks, contest is an integral part of the Toastmasters journey. You learn so much from participating in a contest, whether as a contestant, contest chair, judge, whatever role you can play. I encourage you to participate. It's a different kind of experience, and once you have been in a contest, I promise you, you won't approach your speaking the same way again.
Thank you, Essie. We're now going to set up for our webinar, and the setup will be very quick, and we're trying to sort out some problems for the people, audio problems for the people who are viewing online. Some people can hear, some people can't. We're trying to get that sorted, and then we'll run right into our webinar.